In this video, we're going to show you how to build an asymmetrical Spinnaker kit, or cruising Spinnaker. We're going to show you the steps from beginning to end. You're going to come out with a beautiful asymmetrical Spinnaker from one of Sailrite's kits. All sail kits are customized on Sailrite's state-of-the-art software system and then plotted on Sailrite's 50-foot automated cutting table. You'll notice here the pen is marking each one of the panels as far as identification to make it easier for you to lay each panel in the appropriate position, baste it down, then sew it. You can see also the pen is labeling each one of the seam lines, so all you need to do is just match up panel to panel according to these seam lines, and here it's cutting each one of the panels precisely. So every single panel has each one of its shapes and also seam lines plotted right onto the fabric. There's no guesswork involved. Here you can see Jeff Frank, our sail designer, pulling each one of these plotted panels. Sails come with the data booklet. The first page is your roadmap to panel orientation. Further pages contain the data necessary to recreate this sail. We'll take a look at the first page, which is the roadmap for your sail. A closer look reveals that each one of these panels are labeled with an appropriate number. That makes it easier for you to orientate your sail. We'll start with section 1, then move on to section 2, then the middle section, section 3, and then the last section, section 4. Because your sail is computer designed, you can build it in sections, making the assembly a lot easier because it's smaller. We will baste and sew section 1, section 2, section 3, and section 4. When those sections are basted and sewn together, we'll take each one of the sections and baste and sew them together. We talked earlier about each one of these panels having lines plotted right on it. Here you can see the center seam line, or the section seams. You'll notice it's on the left-hand side, but not on the right-hand side. That makes logical sense because obviously we're laying one panel right up against those lines, and those lines are used for a reference to make sure that our seaming is completely accurate. Here you can see Deb basting panels together with the double-sided tape that's provided in your kit, and you notice she's staying right above that seam line that's plotted on each one of these panels. So then we'll peel off the back paper revealing the glue, and then we take our other panel that's labeled with the appropriate number, and you use your map to determine that, and we'll place that raw edge right along that seam line. Notice you can peel up this panel if necessary if you don't have it exactly right, and then reapply it. What can be easier than that? If you don't have it exactly right prior to sewing, pull up the panel, reapply it, and it's stuck in place. As long as you're accurate here, you'll come out with a gorgeous asymmetrical, or what we call cruising Spinnaker. So baste all panels together, and we baste them according to sections. So this is section 1, then we'll move on to section 2 and section 3 and 4 later. After each one of those sections or panels, it doesn't really matter exactly how you do this. We're doing it, we're basting each panel together, then sewing it, but you could baste the entire section together, section 1, and then sew it, and then start on section 2. So here's only 2 panels, and we're just sewing across that seam with a zigzag stitch. Now this is a Sailrite Professional 4-point sewing machine, so it's actually doing it in 1 stitch. If you had just a straight zigzag machine, you would put 2 rows of a zigzag stitch, approximately 3/16 inch by 3/16 inch, right next to each other. This process is easy, time-consuming, but easy. She's basting yet another panel to section 1. Once section 1 is all complete, she'll move on to section 2, 3, and 4. Sewing Spinnakers is easily done. We're using the professional sewing machine, but you can easily accomplish this with the Ultra-Feed zigzag machine or even a home sewing machine. There's no advantage to a 4-point stitch, just speed and production. After basting and sewing section 2 and 1 together, you'll notice there's a little bit of a strange assembly in the middle of those assemblies. Just cut it off with scissors. That's quite normal. Don't be surprised at that. Just cut it so it's straight across. So that's section 1 and 2 basted together and sewn together. Then she's going to match it up to section 3 here. At the top of section 3, when it's sewn together, you'll notice the same situation. There'll be a little bit of an odd shape to fabric. Just cut it off. Now she's going to baste and sew that to the head section, or section 4. After all sections are sewn together, we'll concentrate on the patch assembly. You'll notice there are Dacron patches for reinforcement, and then there are nylon patches, and your patch assembly may vary in style. On each one of the nylon patches, there are lines to indicate how these panels are oriented to each other. Just match up the lines so that they make sense. So right now we're not basting anything together, we're just getting the general layout for each one of these patch assemblies. Now that we've determined that, we'll set those patches aside in an order that makes it easier for us to assemble each one of these assemblies, and there are those lines. Now we'll take the Dacron patches, starting with the 3 smallest ones. The number of patches for your sail may vary depending on its size. We'll flip these panels over and apply a 3M Super 77 spray adhesive to the bottom side of these patches to pre-baste them in place. Using the 3M Super 77 spray adhesive keeps any bubbles or wrinkles out of the patch assembly as we sew it down to the sail. After we're done applying the glue adhesive to this side of the patch, we'll take them over to the larger patch, starting with the first largest patch assembly, and baste it down, being careful to pull any wrinkles out of the assembly. You'll also notice that it's quite easy to readjust this patch if it doesn't go down straight, so you can tear it up and reapply it without any kind of problems. Here we are with the next largest patch on the bottom side, and then finally the smallest patch. This assembly is now done. We'll now take this assembly and install a webbing and ring for the attachment to the corner assembly. We will not install the nylon until a later step. We take that ring that's included in your kit and draw a pencil line at the exact corner of this patch assembly and then cut it out so it fits just like this in the video. Then we take our webbing strips, and your instructions will say what size to cut the webbing, and apply double-sided tape to the 2 ends of the webbing strip. We notice here that we are not applying double-sided tape to the center of these webbing strips because that's where the ring will be installed. Now we'll peel back the paper to reveal the glue, and then we'll baste each one of these webbing strips to that patch assembly. We'll insert the ring, then we'll sandwich the patch assembly between the webbing on both sides. So we'll determine the center of the webbing and then baste this side down as shown here in the video. Now flip this patch over and baste the opposite side. The use of double-sided tape helps to keep the webbing exactly where we want it while we take it to the sewing machine and sew it down. Now take the second strip and do the same. By applying the webbing as we are here in the video, we are keeping the one side from being on top of the other. That makes it easier for most home sewing machines as they find it difficult to sew through the 2 pieces of webbing directly placed on top of each other and also the patch assembly. So this makes it easier for home sewing machines to sew it because the webbing's not directly on top of itself. We're now ready to take this assembly over to the sewing machine and sew down each one of these webbing strips. We'll use a zigzag, and we'll begin by reversing the stitch to lock it in place and sew all the way up to that ring, remembering to lock the stitch in place by reversing here. You should at least sew 2 rows per each webbing strip. In this illustration, we're actually going to sew 3 rows down each one of these legs. Alright, let's move on and show this assembly completed here. Here's the assembly with the webbing sewn in place. Now we're just going to fit that patch assembly to the sail. If any of the sail is sticking over the edge, we'll mark it with a marking pencil or chalk as shown here in the video, and then trim it to size.